Welcome back to another video. So, given the recent news of the cancellation of the 2026 Doctor Who Christmas special, I thought I'm going to take a look back at Doctor Who and what it means to me and what my thoughts on it are about what's happened and what might come. So, first of all, Doctor Who has been going for 62 years, I think. Over 60 years now. It's been a while. I first started watching it in the 80s. Yes, I had to pause for a moment because it's been that long. My first Doctor was Peter Davison. I remember sitting on the sofa with my dad as a kid, 5, 6, 7, watching Peter Davison. And I loved it. I don't think I really understood it at the time, or what. I didn't understand the history of it. I didn't know the history of it. Well, that came later. I just knew, oh my God, this is weird. A man in a blue box wearing a weird piece of celery. It was fantastic. And it's weird because I've since gone back and visited some of those episodes, and they're obviously so different. And you're like, oh my God, I loved this as a kid. It's such nostalgia bait. But Peter Davison was my first Doctor and will always have a place in my heart. I remember him then regenerating into Colin Baker. That's right, Colin Baker. I always get confused because two Bakers, but Colin Baker. And I remember not liking Colin Baker to start with because he was moody, and they did it on purpose. But he mellowed a bit, and I did, like every other Doctor, you're warm to them. And Colin, I think, still stands out as one of those Doctors that is very Marmite for people. But I think he's come to be loved a lot more in later years, perhaps at the time. And obviously, he was in the show previous to being a Doctor, which I didn't know when I was younger. I later discovered this, but that kind of fed into the whole canon that we've known to come and evolve since then, about having faces of people that he's seen. So that was amazing. Then I was a bit older when Sylvester McCoy took over, and obviously that wasn't without its problems. There was no regeneration scene as such. I think it was Sylvester in a wig. And I remember thinking it was all a bit strange, but I did love Sylvester. And Ace. Oh, I think I had the hots for Ace, if I remember correctly. I just thought she was so cool. She was so cool. And that would have been, or the late 80s by that point. So I would have been about 10. So I was probably really starting to appreciate women and Ace and everything. And I loved the way she called him Professor instead of Doctor. But yeah, Ace was cool. And I've met Sophie once upon a time, and she's lovely. And my friend recently, thank you, Anne Horton, has obtained her autograph for me along with Sylvester's. So thank you, Anne. I will show you a video one day. I will do a video on Doctor Who autographs because I have a few, but I don't have them with me right now. So that will have to wait. And I don't want to detour from what this video is about. So, moving on. After Sylvester, the show was axed. For many years, we didn't know. Then in the mid-90s came a movie, a kind of a, I think it was a part American, part BBC funded movie, if I remember correctly. And it had a new Doctor. We started off with Sylvester, but he became Paul McGann. But he didn't become Paul McGann, but Paul McGann took over. And I loved Paul McGann, and there's a few little continuity issues that people complain about, but I think it adds to the fabric of Doctor Who that these things happen. It's still discussed to this day, but I think without question I can say, though the TV movie was okay, it wasn't the best thing in the world, but it was more Doctor Who. I think he's one of people's favourite Doctors. We would have all loved to see more of Paul McGann. We would have. And in other ways we have. I will skip to later on, but we've had Big Finish with Paul McGann, and I think that's where he really came into his own with the role off screen. But yeah, that's all the Doctor Who we had for many years. And they've just released the Steelbook actually. And it's a beautiful piece. And it's got Paul McGann on one side on the front, and then it's got Sylvester and the remaining characters on the back. And once again, Ant, bless his soul, got my copy and his copy signed, both Paul McGann and Sylvester McCoy, in a gorgeous white pen. So very much looking forward to getting my hands on that. So that's great. So then, that was mid-90s, cut to 2005. Yes, it was 2005. So it's quite a different age by this point. I was in my 20s. I was actually married at that point, very briefly. But that's when new Doctor Who came with Christopher Eccleston. And I don't think anyone really knew what to expect, given the classic era. But New Who, as it's monikered, started things over. It became its own thing and continued the story. And in between was the Time War, this unspoken mystery that nobody knew much about, but we knew that the Doctor had wiped out the Time Lords and the Daleks. Supposedly. It's always supposedly with the Doctor. Christopher Eccleston, for me, was one of my favourite Doctors. There's many I could say that about, in fairness, but he was one of my favourite Doctors. And he brought the show back in a big, big way. Him and Billy Piper, who played Rose Tyler. And they were great. And I remember it was about 4 days after the first episode aired that we heard he was leaving. Nobody really knew why. We've since learned, but we were told, I think he didn't want to be typecast or something like that. And I was like, oh my God, we can't lose Chris Eccleston, because he's such an incredible Doctor, you know. With one season, are you kidding? Little did we know. Now, I am intrigued to see what we may have gotten had Chris not left. But I cannot deny that I have no regrets with what happened in the fact that we got Tennant, because I think it's a given. Tennant is one of the best Doctors there's ever been. Hence, we can't get rid of him. But no, I love watching Tennant. He, for me, embodied fully what the Doctor was. This ancient Time Lord who was cool and hip, but scary and enthusiastic and exciting. He did all sides of the Doctor so well, in my opinion. Really loved Tennant's era. He did 4 seasons and a bunch of specials, all of which were great. There was some really solid stuff. And I think my reason for loving that era so much is Captain Jack had been introduced in the first season, and then he reappeared in Tennant's seasons. And there was a lot of crossovers, little clues, which then tied up with Torchwood, which came later, which is obviously an anagram of Doctor Who. I'm sure everybody knows that. And Torchwood in its own way was amazing and just expanded the world further. So, loved that. Then, after Tennant, we got Matt Smith. And I don't envy anyone having to take on that role after David Tennant. And I'll be honest, I wasn't struck on Matt Smith to start with. I struggled with him for about the first 10 episodes. of the first season. I really struggled with him. But I think I didn't like his outfit much, and I was such a Tennant bod. I was just like, I'm not feeling this. It's not the same. It's not the same. But Matt Smith really came into his own for me in the following seasons. At the end of the first and into the next two seasons he did. They changed up his outfit, which I absolutely loved, his new outfit, this long coat and stuff. And the quality that I feel that Smith brought to the role was that he seemed a bit more alien than the other guys. They all had their own strengths, but for me, Matt Smith really added that quirky alien manner to him, as well as being this young-looking doctor, but wise beyond his years, an ancient Time Lord. I just think it was an amazing performance by Matt Smith, the fact that he pulled that off in such a childlike manner, whilst being this intellectual genius. Incredible performance. And I think then we got the 50th anniversary, which obviously brought in John Hurt as the War Doctor. I believe because Eccleston, though approached, wasn't interested in coming back for various reasons. I think there wasn't a full script, so he didn't want to make a judgment on a full script without a full script, and he didn't. I don't think he saw a reason for his doctor to go back other than to have him back. So I think that's why he didn't do it. Gutted, but fair enough. We did, however, get Paul McGann again for a minisode, and I remember watching that, and the hairs on my neck stood on end as he said, "Are you expecting a doctor?" No, he didn't. He didn't say that. What did he say? He says, "I'm the doctor, but probably not the one you were expecting." And then it cut to him. It's like, oh my God. That's just epic writing by Stephen Moffat. That's just genius writing. What a nice little surprise. Fortunately for me, it was a shock. I heard it got leaked, and I think they released the episode on McGann's birthday, which was lovely for him, but it was released early because of the leak. I may be mistaken on that, but I don't think I am. And that to me was like a 5-minute episode that just did so much. It did so much in such a short space. That is just incredible writing. And a great performance. Loved it. And then obviously Tennant and Smith in the 50th anniversary with Hurt. It was really well done, and I know the production had a lot of issues. I think at one point Stephen Moffat only had Jenna Coleman for the 50th, and he was just like, what am I going to do? And he put together this incredible story that touched on the Time War and gave us an insight into what happened. And it was good, and there was obviously a cameo by Tom Baker in there as well, which added further to the fabric of Doctor Who, about the curator. Genius piece of writing. Could not really have wanted much more for the 50th. I would have loved Eccleston in there. I would have loved McGann in there fully. But what we got was really solid. Just great writing. When Smith's era ended, which was shortly after that, we then regenerated into Peter Capaldi. And this is where I kind of dropped off a little bit. He reminded me very much of the Colin Baker switch, because he was not a nice doctor to start with. I was like, oh, he's nice. I mean, he was obviously older than the 3 previous ones. And it was a very different vibe. And I was just like, oh, I don't know if I like this. I dipped in and out from that point. I dipped in and out. I think his later seasons, they softened him. He grew his hair out a little bit, changed his outfit up a bit, which I really liked, with the hoodie and the suit jacket. It's like every Doctor. You start to own the role after a period of time, and that's what he did for me. For me, I think he was probably the last Doctor that I really resonated with, but again, I was losing interest at that point. I wasn't enjoying it all. I didn't even watch all of Capaldi's era. I watched bits, but it was okay for me. It wasn't my favourite, but what was I going to say? I didn't like the Sonic sunglasses. Yeah, I didn't like those. And he was all right that he played guitar, I guess, but that was a bit weird for me. Yeah, I was starting to lose my way with it then. And also, the regeneration cycles have been increased from, was it 12 lives, 13 regeneration cycles, something like that. So we'd already had that because of the Tennant one, or the War Doctor one, whichever one you want to count, both of them. So we had to have a new cycle of regenerations. And I kind of hate that they lost that he only has so many regenerations. It takes away the, what's the word? I can't think of the word, but there's no panic. There's no, what's the word? I can't think of the word. Yeah, I can't, you know what I mean. There's no, it's so annoying. I'll flash the word up on the screen if I think about it. Consequence. There's no consequence now, because we know he hasn't got, there's an infinite number of lives. That's the word. So that bothered me. Then obviously they did something brand new and they cast a female in the role with Jodie Whittaker. Now, I think Jodie's a great actress, but I never really felt her Doctor, if I'm honest. I think I've come to not mind her so much since then, which again, that's what happens, but I didn't like the whole fam element. And I remember I watched the first few episodes and again dipped in and out a bit. And it wasn't for me. I don't think the writing was strong, if I'm honest. And that's the era they introduced the Timeless Child, which, that just screws up everything to my mind, because everything we came to know doesn't make sense now. I didn't really like that, and I think it pissed off quite a lot of fans. Because the fugitive Doctor, Jo Martin, she had a blue box. But how did she get a blue box if Hartnell's Doctor is the first one that had the blue box? Because the time machine isn't a blue box. That's what he chose. So there's too many things that weren't answered for me. Maybe you can answer in the comments if you've got explanations. I'd love to hear them. But that bothered me. So yeah, it wasn't... And I think also, if I remember correctly with that era, I remember the sci-fi special effects just being really bad, really sort of obviously fake looking. And I just didn't like it. I didn't like the style they filmed it in either. It just didn't seem to have much weight to it. And I was really gutted, because it was at that point I was really, really dropping off Doctor Who. I'd already dropped off with Capaldi, and I just wasn't feeling the stories or anything with Jodie. What can you do? So then she regenerates into into David Tennant again, and it's like, what? That was amazing. What a genius idea, just to play around and confuse everyone. And I was really pleased to see Tennant back on screen with Catherine Tate until I wasn't. Don't get me wrong, they were fine in it, they were great, but I just felt that those specials really undermined everything that had come before for Tennant. I really feel... See, if he was playing the 14th Doctor, why did he basically play him like the 10th? I get why, it's relatability, but should he have played him like that? I'm not convinced. But I really felt they undermined his departure and done a sacrifice. There was no consequence anymore, which I thought was a shame. But for me, where it all went wrong was the bi generation. I remember watching it and going, I was just like, nah, you've lost me. You've lost me. You've lost me. I hated the bi generation. I think it was the worst idea. And off camera, or off the, you know, behind the scenes, Russell T Davies says at that point they all split throughout the timeline. So you've got all these doctors walking around so they can interact with each other, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, what a mess. No, please God, no. You lost me then, because for me, again, there was no consequence then. You got two doctors, and I was like, well, I'm not interested in following that doctor. I want to follow Tennant. Why wouldn't I want to follow Tennant? And if he's still got his TARDIS, why would he just sit with Donna? It didn't make any sense to me. It still doesn't. You know, why wouldn't the doctor show? You're not just going to change your nature overnight because you split. Nah, not feeling that at all. Not at all. Anyway, that did leave us with Ncuti Gatwa. Now, when they announced Ncuti was taking over, I was actually really chuffed, because I was a big sex education fan, and I loved him as Eric. I thought he was freaking amazing as Eric. And it's like, oh my God, I can see it now. He's going to be awesome in this role. But no, he wasn't. In fact, I think he's the worst Doctor we've ever had. I'm sorry. I hated the way he played him. Hated it. Because to me, he didn't play the Doctor. He played himself. Now, I know everyone goes, oh, but everyone plays the Doctor in their own way. Yes, of course they do. And I get, you bring your own personality to the role. But I felt he lost all the integrity of the Doctor. He lost everything that made the Doctor the Doctor. You know, I mean, he cried in virtually every episode. His companions were the one being strong. And I'm like, hold on, you're the newly healed Doctor. And you're crying every episode and relying on your companions to help you, basically. And then I think I didn't even watch it all. They introduced a love story where he fell in love with someone within about 5 seconds of meeting him. And the thing is, the Doctor, for me, has always been quite non-sexual. Now, yes, I know Tennant and Rose loved each other, and, you know, there's the flirty, but it was never really spelt out. It was always left a bit ambiguous, left because, you know, he rejected Martha as well. And for me, that's the Doctor. You know, he connects with people, but he's never with someone. You know, he doesn't fall for them. He doesn't let himself. And this Doctor changed that, and I didn't like it. I thought the Doctor's lost his identity. I mean, that was just a minor. There was too many other problems besides that, but it just didn't feel like the Doctor. There was no consequence. There was no depth. There was no. So anyway, that's where I feel it went wrong. Was the boy generation, and I was so good because I thought he'd be bloody brilliant as the Doctor. And I think the writing let him down as well, massively. because we did not get 2005 Russell T Davies. I don't know what we got there. I don't even know where storylines were going. I mean, they had the thing with the creature on the TARDIS that had been there forever. I'm like, but there's 2 TARDISes now. How has that happened? So is that multiplied as well? Just so much of it didn't make sense, and the whole Mrs. Flood thing was such an anticlimax. Yeah, I didn't even watch enough to comment. I lost my way with it. However, I did watch the regeneration into Billy Piper, of all people, which was obviously a gimmick and desperate grab to try and get the show renewed by Disney, I guess, which did not go well because it didn't. And they said they were making a season 3 and a Christmas special and blah, blah, blah. And then they weren't. And, you know, it was obvious to everyone. The lowest ratings ever. And the show was cancelled. Well, it's been put on hiatus, let's say, where the Christmas special's been cancelled. I would have preferred the regeneration, personally, to have just left it with a regeneration and not know who it might be. But we didn't. We got Billy Piper, which then makes things even more confusing. It's like, why is he regenerated into his former assistant, if that is indeed what's happened? Now, for the future of Doctor Who, I don't know what's going to happen. None of us do. But I know what I'd like to happen. So I'm now going to give you my ideal resolve with how it's been left and what I would like to see. This might piss people off, I don't know. For me, Shooty is now regenerated into Billy Piper. We don't know why, we don't know who this Billy Piper is, but I would like to think that the bi-generation has failed. It was never meant to happen. I think the toy maker could have caused this rupture to have taken place. It was never meant to happen. What seems like a gift and a blessing, because Tennant's Doctor could retire and stuff, yet the other guy can go on and live the adventures. What might seem like a blessing, I think, should be seen as actually a curse. Again, accountability and consequence come back into this. So I think if he's dying and basically he's regenerated into Billy Piper as a reminder that, you know, you're not human. You're not human. And that you're supposed to look after people. And that is his sign. A bit like Peter Capaldi getting the face from Rome. A reminder to save people. I think that's his wake-up call to go, this ain't right. You're dying. You're dying. You need to merge with your former self. You need to merge with 14 in order that you can fully regenerate properly into your next incarnation. And it might be quite cool then if Tennant's character comes back and he's got his TARDIS and he can get to the other universe, Rose Tyler's universe, to meet his offshoot human self, who he talks to about it and is told, yeah, you're not me. You don't get to live a human life. You are a Time Lord. You've separated. You can't separate the pain from the happiness. You have to be whole. So that then he's learning from himself, from a version of him that has lived a human life but has been able to, in order to go, yeah, I've got to go back. I've got to merge and undo what the toy maker did and become a whole unit again. And then we can have a full regeneration into a new casting and not have any of the bi-generation problems. How we quite undo the child, I think the timeless child, I don't know yet, but I think that would be a good way to resolve what's just happened, and it would make sense. And I think what would be quite cool then is if he did fully regenerate it into someone ginger, like he's always wanted. And maybe it's a cruel twist. It's only a flicker, like the Rose Tyler regeneration. It flickers, and then he regenerates into his proper form, and he's like, still not ginger. Oh, so close, but still not ginger. It gives him consequence, or let him be ginger, but I think that'd be an amusing way to wrap up a resolve and continuation without it feeling too heavy. And it honours Shooty's era, it honours Jodie's era, it honours Capaldi's era, it honours the 14th Doctor's era without just undoing it all. It actually adds to the fabric of Doctor Who and what it means, and it lets it make sense. Like the War Doctor, that pocket, you've now got the pocket with the bi-generation going, it wasn't meant to happen. The Doctor can't live without consequence. He needs consequence to be the Doctor. And I think it would really add weight to Shooty's era. And I think you'd go back and watch those episodes with a different mindset. And I think what Shooty did then and the way the stories were written would possibly lend more credibility to them, because he was playing the Doctor without the heaviness. And it would make sense as to why, because now he wasn't, though he was the Doctor, he wasn't complete. He needed to be complete again. And I like that idea. I think that's good. Maybe I could be showrunner. Who knows? But yeah, they're my thoughts. I think, unfortunately, it's going to be a few years till we get Doctor Who in the one sense, but I'd rather them take their time and come back with something knockout, because I don't doubt Doctor Who will be back. I don't think a franchise of over 60 years is going to die. It's just not. But it needs to have a rethink. It needs to do something special, and it needs to, I think, answer a lot of questions that have been left, unanswered. So yeah, let me know in the comments your thoughts. Let me know what you'd like to see, any suggestions, how it could be resolved, what you'd like resolved, what you liked about it, what you didn't like about it. Yeah, just have fun, guys, and tell me your thoughts, because I want the show back. I love the show, despite, Doctor Who is the sort of show you can dip in and out of. You're not going to like every Doctor all the time, and that's fine. But I think it has lost its way, and I think there's got to be an amazing answer out there, because it comes back to the writing at the end of the day. If the writing's not good, the show's not going to be good. It doesn't matter what actor you've got. So yeah, let's share some thoughts and see what might be. Anyway, thank you for listening. Please like, subscribe, follow, comment, all that good stuff. And I'll see you next time.